Here's a question from Michael on Twitter. Anyone familiar with a simple way to automate adding GitHub commits to FreshBooks time tracking? I like this question a lot because it can be solved with Zapier, and it uses a little bit of clever coding techniques to make it happen. So let's jump into Zapier and set up a Zap that is going to accomplish this. And before we do a trigger, let's first go to the action. So I'm going to choose an app, and I am going to choose FreshBooks. For the action, I'm going to click on Show Less Common Actions, create time entry, scroll down, save and continue. Connect to a FreshBooks account, save and continue. And now, the reason I wanted to do the action first is that we want to see what are the options that we have available to us for creating a time entry. Project ID, task ID, staff ID, hours, notes, date. Okay, how are we going to specify all of these things from a single GitHub commit? Here I am in GitHub with a Zapier demo repository. I'm going to create a new file. I will call it test.txt. Give it a little bit of content. Now let's scroll down and commit this. We only have what I'll call a title and a description for this commit. For the title, I'll say create test.txt. And then here in the description, it's just one big field. And so we have the opportunity in Zapier to specify hours, staff ID, notes, date, all these data pieces. And yet we only have one description field here in GitHub. How are we going to get around this? Well, I have created a JavaScript object right here, and I will link to this gist in the description of this video. And so I'm going to copy that, and I am going to paste it into, hold on. I will copy and go over to GitHub, paste it in. Still didn't work. Let's go back to the raw version of this. I'm going to copy it and paste it in. There we go. And the format is very important. It must match this exactly. FreshBooks time entry object, space, equal sign, space, and then an open curly brace. And then it's an object, project ID in double quotes, colon, space, and then double quotes, the number of the project ID. And so I've created a key for each of the options that we have in Zapier. Now, if you're a little confused, this will all make sense soon. Hours, notes, date, it's all there. So whenever you commit to your GitHub repository, if you include this JavaScript object and make sure that you've got the correct values here for each one of these keys, then we'll be able to create the exact type of time entry that you want. So I am going to leave this as is for now. And just to show you, the project ID comes from going to the project in FreshBooks and just looking in the URL, 25479. That's what I have there. Task ID. This is the type of task that I am doing. I selected demo task, and that is 302086, which is exactly what we have here. For staff ID, that comes from people. And you go to people, you go to staff and contractors, and then you click on whoever you want this time entry to be assigned to. And in this case, Reagan Star has a user ID of 1. So that's where those are coming from. All of that goes in between double quotes. And those three are the hard ones that you have to look up. And so this is going to work not just for a single project, but whenever you want to assign time to any project through a GitHub commit, you could just go into FreshBooks and look up that project ID or that task ID or you probably won't need to change the staff ID if you're just recording time for yourself. You'll just remember which one you are. And then hours, note, and date as well. So now we're going to commit new file. So this is the hard part. We've committed the file. Now we're going to go to a trigger. Choose app, going to search for GitHub. Scroll down to new commit, save and continue. Save and continue. For the repository, I am going to select Zapier demo, continue. Fetch and continue to test the step. Make sure that you have a recent commit with this format, the JavaScript object format included. And now if we scroll down, we'll see it right there. That is what we're going to want to see after we test this step in this exact format. Click continue, and we're on to FreshBooks. But we can't get there quite yet because we need to parse that JavaScript object. And it's very simple. We're going to use code, but I've written it all for you. Run JavaScript. Here in the template, click on the insert a field, select commit message, and enter commit_message, all lowercase. This needs to match exactly, and commit message is there. And then back to this gist, which again I will link to. I'm actually just going to select it all and paste it all in. And there's a comment right here. We could delete it, but I'll just leave it in so that you can have that for reference. And then just click continue. Click create and continue to test the step. It should work. Now view your run JavaScript. And if we scroll down, look at this. Staff ID 1, task ID 302-086. And all of the pieces of data have been parsed into data fields that we can now use inside of Zapier, which is pretty cool. Down to step 3, create time entry. We've connected to the account. Now setting up the template. If you wanted to create time entries for a single project, you could just select it here. But if you want to be able to dynamically pass in a project ID, click use a custom value, and then insert a field, and then we're going to search for project, and from underneath, run JavaScript, not under new commit, but under run JavaScript, project ID. Task ID, same thing. If it's always the same type of task, you can enter that right there. But if you want to be able to dynamically pass one in, use a custom value, insert a field, search for task, underneath run JavaScript, task ID. Same thing with staff ID. We're going to use a custom value, and from inserting a field here, search for staff, staff ID, hours. And here we go. From underneath run JavaScript, I will search for hours. And where is it? There we go. Takes a little bit of time to set this up, but it will be worth it. Notes, done, and date. Right there. Continue. 4 hours, and it's all looking good. Create and continue to test that in FreshBooks. That's going to create a test time entry. We can click finish. Let's turn on the Zap. We'll say GitHub commit to FreshBooks time entry. And I'll save it in my demo folder and turn it on. Great. Now back to FreshBooks. I'll show you that if we look at projects, yes, I've got 12 build hours. That's because I've tested this a few times now. Let's test it live. Back to Zapier demo. I'm going to create a new file. We'll call it test2.txt. Put a little bit of content in there. We can leave that. It'll be automatically generated. Now I need to get that template again. And I left it right here in the Zap, so I'll just copy it from there. Paste it in, and I'll say this is another note, and I'll say that it was, let's say, 2 hours. And we'll leave everything else the same. So if this works, this is going to change from 12 to 14. Commit new file. Oop, approaching the recording limit. I'm under the clock here. Got to make sure I show you this. I've got 20 seconds to finish up. Back to demo and run. 15 seconds, triggered, run the JavaScript. And hopefully it creates the time entry. It does. 10 seconds to refresh. Does it change from 12 to 14? It does. 6 seconds. We've done it. We've done it.